58 marathons in 58 days across 58 states. Like, that's unbelievable.
Everyone's one decision away from changing their life in some way,
Yeah.
positive or negative. Yeah. And I'd never had an experience like that before in my life. And 58 marathons easy.
Was it day 17 in Vermont?
Yeah.
Where you had to come to a breaking point of asking for help?
I've trained a lot in my life and I've never had an injury like that. So it's the most insane thing I could possibly think that I could put my body through and myself through. The hardest part in any change is the acceptance that you need to change, and there's a time and a place to be open and vulnerable, and there's a time and a place where you need to roll your sleeves up and get stuff done. And my videographer's like, come on man, just give me some emotion. We need this for the doco and for the socials. And I was like, that's not who I am. I'm not going to do it just for clicks and likes.
Why do you think it was such a challenge to accept?
One, I don't want to put people out. If you want something done well, you do it yourself.
Like, how did you develop, I guess, being more responsive than reactive?
Or choosing to do hard things. And hard doesn't need to be physically. It could be having tough conversations. The hard thing is, like, you are faced with what your real character is. How is anyone ever going to be allowed to grow and change if people always hold them to the version of themselves that they met them in? And then when I finished, it's like, holy crap, I just did that, man. And like, it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had.
Welcome to the OneTalk podcast with Ryan McCarthy.
Today's episode is sponsored by TNC Metal Roofing. TNC Metal Roofing is a small family-owned business constantly striving to outdo competition on quality, appearance, and providing the most cost-effective roofing solutions. All aspects of metal roofing, from new roofs, re-roofs, fascia, and gutter-to-wall cladding. With many builders and private clientele, they are slowly growing to be the next big contender in North Brisbane. TNC stated they are loving the work OneTalk does throughout the community and beyond, highlighting mental health is a major thing and often swept under the rug within the building industry, and they want to make it a topic. Never any project TNC will shy away from, and the mental health of their employees is always at the forefront. So check the link in this bio. You can find their website, you can find their Instagram. Please go show the love, go show the support. Also, if you need any roofing work done, I highly recommend hitting them up. They are the best in the business on Brisbane, and I highly recommend checking them out.
Thank y'all. The marathon continue. Lay that victory lap tonight, though. Victory lap tonight.
Welcome to the OneTalk podcast with Ryan McCarthy.
The marathon continues. That's what you would say.
Welcome back to the OneTalk podcast. Lachlan Stuart, how are you, man?
Good to be back, Ryan. Second time. I'm pumped.
Good to have you back, man. I can't believe it's been like nearly 2 years since the first episode.
Goes so quickly. But it's even better we're doing it in person this time, as we're saying. It's like, you look better in person too.
Likewise, bro. Might be the lining on me, but
yeah.
showing off my bald head, but you know.
No, I'm pumped to be here. It's good to have a bit of a yarn beforehand and see what's been going on.
Yeah.
And lots happened for both of us over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been good to catch up because, like you said, like a lot's happened, especially for you. You know, you've been on a bit of a world tour.
Yeah.
I think you originally went to Europe and did a lot of runs around Europe, and then you traveled to America, and then you did your 58 marathons across 58 states in 58 days across Australia and America. So it sounds like a little bit's been happening for you too, brother.
A few miles, been a pound on the pavement, a lot of adventures, that's for sure. But yeah, it's flown by. Like the fact that it's been 2 years since we've caught up, the fact that I've been living overseas for 18 months, and the fact that it's already been 2 months since I finished the 58 marathons is mind blowing. Like it's scary how fast it goes, and it's one of the, I guess, reasons why you're doing what you do and what I do. It's like we want to maximize life and fit as much in as possible because it's, we don't get time back.
Yeah, 100%. I can't believe it's been 2 months because I was on like Instagram every day just trying to check in on your stories to see what's going on.
It's like, is he dead yet? What injuries he got? Yeah, that was part of the fun. Like for me, every marathon I finished, I'd get on Instagram and just respond to comments or start thinking about my day, like what actually happened. Because when you're in it, you're just freezing. Your head's in a rough spot for 90% of the day. But I also wanted to remind myself to think about the whole experience, what I saw, the people that I spoke to, what it felt like, because I knew that like even now there's going to be so many stories and lessons that can come from it, and you want to look back and just be like, I can't believe I did that, and that's what this specific town or that's what this specific moment was like.
Bro, can you imagine when you're like 80 years old on the porch,
Dude,
just
I'm
telling
so
all
excited.
the kids the stories?
I'm so excited. You know what's even cooler is we got daily YouTube. So hopefully when I'm 80 or 90, we can put on like some virtual reality or I don't know what the world's going to look like.
Yeah.
And I'll just click play and be like, holy crap, that was 33-year-old me with some buddies traveling around the US and Australia. It's going to be amazing.
That's why I love the internet and social media, because like it gives us a platform to leave a digital footprint on the world. So like 10 generations after us are still going to see, what you did and the achievements that you did and the challenges and what you overcome and the lessons that you learn along the way. Like it's so cool that, 200 years from now, like this thing's still going to be here. Or hopefully, I guess.
Touch wood, next week, YouTube into liquidation. But even for you as becoming a dad, right? How does it feel for you knowing that your children and the legacy that you're leaving, they can view? Because one thing that I think about, I love my parents, but I'm like, I wonder what they were like at my age, like what they actually went through, because I viewed them as like strong and resilient, and they never had any issues because they never spoke about that. But obviously we all know everyone deals with that. So to be able to go on Mum Stuart YouTube, click on it and see what she's been up to and experiences that she had, what she was curious about at various points in their life, like that's pretty special.
Yeah, it is, because when my wife was heavily pregnant, probably a month before our son was born, we did a podcast together and we recorded it just for that purpose, so in the future you can watch it or our kids can watch it. And it is really cool because like when I think of my parents, I don't know if you're the same, but like for the longest time I didn't see my parents as human. I don't know if that sounds bad, but I just see them as mum and dad.
Yep.
But I didn't realize like there's actually a human element to them, like they have feelings and emotions and thoughts.
Friends
like I do.
yeah. It's wild. I think a lot of people do that because that's the role that they play until that point, and especially that generation, they were coming from obviously the wartime, and not necessarily my parents, but they were the hardworking, and not saying we're not hardworking, but coming from the time where they didn't have the freedoms and flexibilities, and it was just like suck it up and get on with it. Whatever problem you have, you got to get on with it. So we don't show emotion. Like my grandma even is one of the like toughest women you'll ever meet. She's 93 now, and with my mum, and she still just hasn't opened up. And I'm like, I'd love to learn a little bit about you, and she's just a country girl and won't give you anything, whereas I feel like the conversations we're even having now and the time that we're in, where we're told to open up, we're told to show our families and friends what we're experiencing, because it shows, one, that we're not alone, but two, it allows us to process things. And that's something that's obviously changing, and whether it will go too far, who knows?
Yeah, because I started this whole work that I do now. Like the podcast didn't come around until 2021, but I started posting online around mental health awareness in 2018. And even in 2018, like I was absolutely shitting myself posting online about mental health, because I didn't know many people doing it. Maybe that's just because of what I was consuming at the time. I was so afraid to like open up and say I feel anxious, because I was like, how are people going to perceive me? How are people? So I didn't want to be treated differently as well. And I think that was another thing. Like I didn't want to open up about my challenges and then people to like treat me like a different person. Like I still wanted to be me, get treated like me, but just express how I felt. But then once I actually did it and started opening up and talking more, I realized, wait, these were just all ideas I created in my head that aren't true.
Yeah. How is that different though? So what you experienced versus what you thought was going to happen, what was the biggest differences you noticed?
The biggest difference I noticed was, first thing was that I'm not alone. Like I'm not the only person with anxious feelings and depression. The second one was it opened up a lot more people around me to speak up as well, which then had a ripple effect of, I guess, positive change it created, like not just for me, but for other people. And also it just ignited my mission even more, like to show how important it is to open up, because once I did and I realized other people are facing challenges, it made me realize that a lot of other people were probably in the same position as me, where they are struggling and they didn't want to open up and talk about it, and then how much more suffer they are putting themselves through by not opening up. Yeah. So I was like, I need to make this bigger and, try and make this mission even stronger. And I stopped caring about what other people thought about me and just straight away just had tunnel vision on my mission.
That's so gnarly. Because I think the big challenge, I know from my experience as well, the hardest part in any change is the acceptance that you need to change, and obviously identifying what those specific things are. And the fact that you were doing it in 2018 when it wasn't I wouldn't say not accepted, because it's accepted and still probably not accepted in some parts of the world and even Australia. But you were like, okay, this is my shit. I'm going to own it, but I'm also going to share it.
Yeah.
Because one, it's like radical. I think it's like radical acceptance when you can do that, because it's like, yeah, you're probably going to cop flack.
Yeah.
You're also going to get a pat on the back from some people, and realistically you're doing it for you regardless, but then also the people who pat you on the back and those who get inspired and go, oh, I'm not alone, I want to change. Yeah. I did the same. I was reflecting through the other day, I started men's groups back in 2017. And I remember at the time when people were like, oh, it's you just a little gay group or whatever, and you get together, I was like, no, it's just like, this is a group of dudes that I want to learn from, and I'm sure, they're coming with their own challenges and set of problems, whereas now like men's group and men's work is such a huge thing. And
so
it's
normalized.
It's part of the fabric, like it always should have been. But yeah, when I was doing it, it was the same thing. I needed it because I didn't have many role models in the way that I needed and wanted to get the results that I wanted from my life, rather than just waiting for it to happen. It's like, I'll put my hand up and I'll see what we can do. And you, once again, you get pats on back from people going, that was amazing, good on you. And then the other side where it's like, what's that, you fucking gay group? Like all that sort of stuff. And you're like, I choose to focus on the positive, not the wankers who are trying to bring you down.
That also shows like the power of voice when you do share and open up and create communities and things like that. Because you think about, for myself, a lot of the things I learned is still information from about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, like Stoic information from like old philosophers, whether it's teachings from the Bible or whatever it is. Like a lot of the information that I get the most benefit from is like a lot of old texture, and it's like, well, that just shows the power of words. Like it lasts thousands of years, and you think, it's probably only more so in the recent couple of 100 years where people probably started shutting down more and not opening up. But it's good to see now where we're back into a place where we do have things like social media and podcasts where people can have a platform and share a message. And in saying that too, like not every single person has a struggle and wants to open up has to start a podcast as well. Like
exactly.
You can't just speak to your mate
that.
or speak to a doctor. But I think just opening up to someone and can literally be so beneficial for you.
Definitely. And going back to what you were saying, like Stoic philosophy and all the principles, like there are fundamental principles that have stood the test of time and will continue to stand the test of time. Everything else is built off the top of that. And whether it's, someone selling a product or a program or whatever, or an idea, it's like, it's still a version of that. But if you strip it back to first principle thinking, it's always going to come back to that. And I think even with AI now, with where the world's going, it's like a lot of people are worried, a lot of people are overwhelmed. But if you look at AI, it still comes back to the fundamentals. Like in order to use AI well, it's communication. If you can't communicate well with people, how do you expect to communicate with a robot and maximize that? Then like obviously, management and the other key things that can help you in your life. So for me, it's like, yep, that's going to be a tool and a resource. Cool. Just like the internet first was. And, when we went from, I guess, fucking farming before machinery and tractors and stuff, like there's always evolution, but it's still going to be fundamental things that are important, which we can then build on. So as an individual, as we're navigating these things in communication, which was what started this part of the conversation, is like, what purpose do we need it to serve in our life? And when we're using it, for me, it's like, I want to get a point across, or I want to help someone understand how I'm feeling, or I'd love them to open up to me. So how can I learn to communicate in that way? There is also things I mentioned before. It's like, is things going to go too much one way? And I think potentially it's like, why did people shut down originally centuries ago? Was it because we went too far one way, where we're talking too much and we're not doing enough? And I think once again, a first principle is like everything in moderation. Yeah. So for me, it's like when I'm thinking about vulnerability, and this could just be my own personal belief, and I'm definitely open to people's ideas and feedback, but there's a time and a place to be open and vulnerable, and there's a time and a place where you need to roll your sleeves up and get stuff done. And I think that is important, obviously, to anyone who's listening. It's like, you need to define what that looks like for you. But for me, when I was running the 58 marathons, my videographer's like, come on, man, just give me some emotion. Like, we need this for the doco and for the socials. And I was like, that's not who I am. I'm not going to do it just for clicks and likes. And it's also not the right time for me right now, because I'm in pain and I've got a goal to do. I need to focus. When I finished, I let it out. but it just was like a time and a place for what I felt was right for me to achieve a specific goal.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, as there's a lot of information, and we're definitely getting a lot of input from the internet, from YouTube, from podcasts, from reels, from everything. It's just then like taking that in, seeing what is of interest to us and what can improve our life, and then understanding the timing of when to do those things.
Yeah,
It was
100%.
a big fucking tangent, sorry.
No, that's good. There's a lot to break down there because it has a lot of truth to it. And I think it's important to stay true to yourself. A perfect example is me, because when I first started to go to like more self-improvement or personal development workshops and events and things like that, a lot of them were making me like get up and dance. I'm like, that's just not me. Like, I don't want to get up and go like this. I'm like,
high five, jumping on chairs.
Like, I came here, like just to learn, sit down, maybe engage, do some activities. And like every single one I was going to was making me dance. And I was like, well, there's probably other places I can get this same information. So I did. I just looked for different sources, and then I found something that felt more true to me. And I was actually able to implement the things that I was learning a lot easier, because I actually felt like I had a connection to it rather than like something that had a lot of resistance to it.
Oh, dude. And I had the exact same experience, man. I feel like we're probably at the same events. But it's like when you go in there, that for me was resistance, because every event, like the information that I got was mind blowing. Like it challenged me and changed me. And I was like, wow, maybe I can do something different with my life. And I wanted to tell my friends. The reason why I didn't was because I didn't want them to see me going to these events where people are jumping and high-fiving and stuff, because that wasn't me, and that definitely was not my mates. But when I, once again, thought about, okay, why do they do that? They do that to change your state, right? To get you feeling and moving. And then I was like, well, what else could change my state? For me, it's exercise. So even with the workshops and events we do, instead of doing the jumping and dancing and shit, which doesn't align with me, we do fitness stuff, because it still changes your state. You get into a positive place. You start to open up. You suffer with someone you've shared suffering, and now you can go into the same kind of work where you start unpacking things, learning things, challenging, gaining insights and perspectives, and you get to grow. But that's a big thing for people. It's like if you do something with intent, right? You go to an event and you're like, the reason why I'm going to this event is for X. I went to this event and I experienced that, but there was this element that I did not like. Cool. Ask yourself, why did they put that element in? And is there a different way you can do that and still get the outcome, because you want the growth overall, or you want the whatever you went in there to get? And that's why it's just like, whether you're working with coaches or you're hanging out with friends, there's going to be people you like, there's going to be people you dislike, there's going to be events you like, events you dislike, and you just got to start taking what you like and removing what you don't like, and then you'll find more of the specific thing. It's like, use that experience to improve your life. Don't just go personal development events, went to one, they were dancing, high five, and never going again. It's like you've just robbed yourself of potentially great new connections and life-changing experiences.
That's it as well, because there is so much information you can still learn. You can't, like you said, turn yourself off because of one element within it. But I like what you do, because I run a men's group for teenage boys. And that's the thing that I do. Like, I don't.
So good.
Cheers, bro. Like, I don't get straight into talking. What we do is we go for like a mountain climb first and burn each other out for like 2 hours. We'll come to the bottom and then we'll sit around and have a lunch and then open up and talk. Or we're talking as we're doing the physical thing. I find especially, my experience is me and men I've worked with, I find we're a lot more open to sharing and talking if we're doing something physical and challenging at the same time, because I feel like it takes the pressure of, or the expectation of, sharing and opening up about the things that we're struggling with. And instead it feels a lot more casual when we are like on the mission to do something, we're on the hunt to do something. And I can imagine that's how we would have done it thousands of years ago when we're hunter and gathering, when we're going to hunt food. The men probably shared stories then and
100%.
talked to each other then. And I find that now when I do work with the young lads, when we go and do something physically challenging, it's a lot easier to get to the core of things.
Yeah, because we don't feel like people get us. I can imagine where you were a decade ago, where I was a decade ago. I thought I was the only one experiencing the stuff that I was experiencing. And when people would say, "Are you okay?" I was like, I'd last time like, you just wouldn't get it. I remember saying it to my parents a lot, like, you just wouldn't understand. My parents have done exactly what we've done, right? They get it better than anyone. And so have people who've lived it. And I think when you start doing things together, and as you said, like, it's you get in the trenches together, it's like we now have a shared experience, and maybe you do get me. And that's where that building rapport is so important. And that's why moving the body in any which way, whether it is the dancing, which isn't, as we've said, for us, or it is physically, or there's plenty of other ways you can do it. You just got to find that way. But it's like if you get in the emotion and share an experience with someone, you now have that connection that you can't take away from someone, and then the trust is established to do the next part.
Yeah, and I think you had a similar experience on your 58 marathons. Was it day 17 in Vermont?
Yeah.
Where you had to come to a breaking point of asking for help?
Yeah, that was a fun day. But that was a huge realization, because even to that point, so 17 days in a row we were running in sub-zero temperatures, so probably an average of minus 12 degrees, which is quite cold. Most people aren't outside in that. They go straight from home into the car, into the office, and vice versa. You don't see people outside.
Mate, today it's like 20 degrees and we're only
Yeah. You've climatized, bro.
I'm not English anymore. I've lost my passport.
So that's what it was like. And obviously the cold temperature and the injuries were wearing me down, but there was still something that I'd always lived by. It's like, if you want something done properly, do it yourself. Yeah. And so I had a team that was, Liam, who was driving and doing logistics and getting food, Benny, who is our videographer, Etienne, who's there just running with me and helping me out, and psychologist. But I still wasn't actually letting them help me, and I didn't realize that until that day. So on that day, it was icy. Like, we've got drone footage of, I'm walking out of the hotel, there's black ice all over the area. Even when I'm running on the grass, I'm slipping. There's just footage of me, and so I'm pissed off before I even start. And I've managed to find this track way down. It was about 8K away from where we were staying, and it was just around a lake. And I was like, okay, this is it. And got 30K into this, no, it was halfway, so 21K into the run, and I'd been running with Liam, and I was like, this is going to be a good run, like a good pace. It was the first second day I've run a full marathon again after being injured. And Liam left at 21K, had to go do some work. And so when he left, I went back to the van, took my gloves off, put my water down, put my nutrition down. You're running with gels for energy and whatnot. And then I warmed up, and then I just took off again. Yeah. And so I'm about 7K back in, and a bit earlier, like 3K back in, and I've realized I didn't have my water, didn't have my gloves, didn't have my nutrition. I'm fucked.
Yeah, well.
And I'm walking at this point because energy was low. It was freezing. And I was in my head, and I'm just like, oh, I think I'm going to pass out. And I was looking to blame. I was like, the guys should have made sure I didn't walk off. They know I'm fatigued. It's their fault. And I called Etienne. I was like, you need to come help me, because I think I'm in strife here. I need to get water and food. And so when he got back, I just went to rip into him. But then I stopped myself, because I was like, it's not his fault. I was like, tonight we need to have a meeting. And obviously then I had a couple more K to walk back home to think about what I wanted to say and what was the outcome. And I just realized in that moment it's all my fault, because I hadn't allowed them to help me. I just said, you're driving, you're doing this, you're doing that, nothing else. I'll do everything else. Yeah. And as you get fatigued and you get worn down, you tend to forget things. Or I was definitely forgetting things. So I had to say to the guys, this is where I'm at. Our goal is to complete the 58. But I'm forgetting this, I'm forgetting that, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. Can you guys help me? And then Liam's like, yep, every morning we'll do this, this, and this for you. All you need to do is run. We'll make sure you go out the door with your gloves, your food, your water. We'll make all the stuff for you. Don't. Yeah. And I felt like a princess at this point. I'm like, once again, as the man that I am, I'm like, I don't want people doing stuff for me. I feel like I'm taking advantage of them because they came along for this role, but now they're doing more. And I didn't want to. I feel really bad about that.
Why do you think it was such a challenge to accept it?
One, I don't want to put people out. And two, it's that if you want something done well, you do it yourself. And I chose to do this. It wasn't like this suffering was forced upon me. Yeah. I chose to put myself in these situations, therefore I need to deal with it. And it was about me. Yeah. As soon as I realized I could zoom out a little bit and think about what's the overall goal. The overall goal for all of us, we were a team. Yeah. The overall goal for all of us was to finish 58 marathons. If it was still just about me and my bravado, we wouldn't have finished it. I would have made probably 3 more runs. And so when I allowed them to help me, and probably similar to what you said when you were posting on social media in 2018, I was thinking, man, they're going to think I'm a pussy, or they're going to think this guy should have known this was going to happen. He should have been prepared for this. Why is he making us do all this work? Like I thought about all of this stuff.
Like prepping yourself for criticism.
Yeah. And once again, they didn't care. Yeah. They were fine about it. And it took them an extra 5 minutes to fill my water bottles and do all the things that they needed to do. But yeah, in my head, I just felt like they'd given up so much to be there. Like obviously they'd left their families. They'd, sacrificed time at their jobs to come for 2 months on the road with me. And now I'm asking them to do more work. Yeah. What a shit person I am. So it was all of that. And I just thought I could do it all by myself.
At the same time, it's like you probably had this conversation with yourself, but you don't want to rob them of being a part of something great, because as much as you have the stories to take away from this, like they all have stories as well from their own perspectives. It'd be cool for you and the whole team to sit down and do a podcast together one day.
That's what once my brother-in-law, because we're going to get him to host it. Once he gets back, we're doing that because I'm keen to hear. There's so much stuff went on while I wasn't there, obviously. One story on day, I think it was day 3. So it was like I injured myself day 1, for those who don't know. Which is which is quite embarrassing. I felt like an idiot because it was my fault once again. But day 3, day 1, toes gone black. Day 2, right ankle's jacked up. Day 3, both ankles are jacked up, and I'm just like, what's going on here? And the pain was just shooting up my shins, and my shins were starting to turn into the same size as my calves. I got big calves. No, I've got small calves. But so I'm starting to get worried. But Liam, while I've gone out to run that marathon, Liam's called our videographer who wasn't coming over for another couple of days. He's like, mate, I don't think you'll need to come over. And I didn't know about this until Ben got there and told me this. He's like, Lockie's in a bad way and I don't think he's going to make it. And I don't think it's good for him to keep going because he's like, I've trained a lot in my life and I've never had an injury like that. So I was worried. He was worried. Then all the, Instagram doctors were worried. So he's obviously telling stories behind the scenes. So I'm very keen for those podcasts to hear what else went on, what they thought. Even like I say, I didn't yell at anyone or anything like that, but I'll be interested to hear what they think, whether I was an asshole or anything like that.
It'd actually be cool to see. I'm not sure if you thought of this idea, but doing it on like a stage, like a live podcast in front of an audience.
No, I haven't thought of that. That'd be sick.
Yeah, it would be sick because to be honest, man, like 58 marathons in 58 days across 58 states, like that's unbelievable. It's a massive, massive achievement. Yeah. I think you could probably actually do like a nation tour of like live podcasts of that event and market it because like that is an incredible feat and there's so many lessons along the way. But not lessons from you, like lessons from the people outside of you, what they saw. Yeah. They saw blind spots in you, saw you overcome challenges that you may not have thought you overcome. Like there's just so much like in this story, man.
You've given me an idea. Now my brain's like, yeah, not a bad idea. It would be fun to do. It even just for I'm sure the crew and myself just to hear what we were really thinking. We all speak openly and we got along well, but obviously there's a lot happening, a lot of driving, a lot of travel, a lot of stuff to deal with. So it will be awesome. Whether we do it as a podcast tour or we just do the interviews, like I think that would be pretty awesome. It just obviously comes down to how many people want to hear us talk about our experiences. So be fun to do. Might do that. Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll buy a front row ticket.
Yeah. But I think even to that point, like something that's really, I found very weird, said to a couple of people that I decided to run the 58 marathons 14 months before we did it. And when I initially was thinking about it, I was just like, it was the most insane thing I could possibly think that I could put my body through and myself through. And it didn't feel possible because at that point I'd run 4 marathons in my life. Yeah. Never any back-to-back. And when I was like, could I actually do 58? Like, that's pretty nuts. And then like 58 while traveling, then I'm like, that's going to cost a lot of money. Like, could I even raise that much money? Like, how do we fund that? And there was so many obstacles that I had to overcome. And one of the cool things was once I got my wife's support, because initially I was like, to Amy, I was like, I think I'm going to do this. She's like, nah, no chance. And I was like, okay. But then I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was obsessing over it. I was, when I was meant to be working, I was like Googling like how many states does New Zealand have? And like Australia, like working out, is it going to be 50, 58, 70 odd? What could it be? And then I just was having coffee with Amy one morning. I was like, I have to do it. Like I can't stop thinking about it. I have to do it. And she's like, okay, I know you have to. And then she's just like, well, be hypocritical of me to expect you to move halfway around the world to pursue my dreams and my career and not allow you to, and not support you to do yours. And in that moment, I was like, not only did I have her support, but I had her belief. She believed I could actually do it. And then I told Liam, and then I told Maddie, and Maddie's a good mate of mine, but he was also our first official sponsor.
Yeah, nice.
As soon as he's like, I'll back you, it went from this dream to like a commitment. It's happening now.
It's real.
And over, the time, it's like I got coached. We did all the things that had to happen in between. But when I started ticking those off, I was building evidence that it was going to be possible. Yeah. And so by the time I was ready to start, I was thinking, it's not big enough now. Like 58 marathons, easy.
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe I should do 58 Ks in 58 days, like 58K a day. I started changing with it because I'd convinced myself that I could do it. And that to me is one of the most interesting parts of this whole experience, is that when you set such an ambitious goal that seems so far out of reach, but you actually commit and you go all in on it, it becomes in your mind real.
Real, 100%.
And then it doesn't seem like it's big enough, but because of the belief system that I had, I was able to overcome every obstacle because in my mind I was already there. And I'd never had an experience like that before in my life. And because people still go, you just said it a moment ago, like it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And
when it is, but in my mind I'm like, it was always guaranteed, which is crazy to say because 14 months ago I was like, it's not possible.
Bro, it just shows what you put your mind to. You can do. Like, it's such a cliche saying, but it holds so much weight.
Yeah. And just the commitment. I've never committed to something like that.
Yeah.
And it made me the same business. Like I've done well in so many areas of my life and I'm grateful for that, but I'd never committed to anything in my life like I've committed to that.
I can imagine, because you said you did 4 marathons and then for some reason you thought it's 14 exit without a rest day. That's a good belief system. Yeah. But like, I think when we have goals and beliefs, there has to be a level of delusion in there. Because I feel like when we want to achieve something great, we have to be a little delulu to make us go and do it, And that little delulu is what really pushes us to being like, no, I can do it. Brings a bit of stubbornness, maybe brings a little tiny bit of arrogance, but that little energy is what actually gets it done.
100%. I could not agree more. But it's also like something bigger as well. Like, I'm very honest with, like, I've always had a game plan for where it was fitting in my life, and a few things, like there's personal reasons why I did it, but there's also professional reasons why I did it. And for me, like, everything that I'm doing in my life is a stepping stone to where I want to get to. And that's not just from a business standpoint, it's from like an experience standpoint, it's a connection standpoint, like there's multiple reasons. And when I was talking to the Iron Cowboy who initially gave me the idea, or I got the idea from, I was hearing about how it had impacted his life and the mission for what he was trying to achieve. And one of his goals at the time was minimizing or reducing childhood obesity. And when he did the 50 states, it gave him a bigger platform to continue the work that he'd been doing. And for me, I've been working in the men's mental health space since 2014, but like officially like 17 when I started my company. Yep. And it's always to our point, like I'm not the dancing guy and I'm who I am, and some people like that, some people don't. But me doing what I want to do anyway, which was I'd done 30 marathons on the rower in 30 days. I'd done I'd done a lot of challenges to that point, and we'd always raised funds and we'd always inspired people and brought community together. And so this was just another level of that, where I was going to get an experience where I'd get to see not many people get to see 50 states of America and do what we did, or 2 have ever done it. And I get to do that, but I also get to learn and inspire the people that I want to, coach and inspire and share what it's actually like to run the marathon of life in a condensed 58 days, but in all seasons, all terrain, which is how I refer to mental health. It's like some seasons of summer where nothing can go wrong and you're feeling amazing, and other times you're trudging through the snow in the winter and it's miserable and you need to ask for help. You need to, slow down and walk for a bit, and that's life. And so for me, I've got this beautiful story that I lived and I walked my talk, and now I can share, well, hence why we're here. Like I can use that to hopefully inspire at least one other person. Yeah.
And you also within that have an example of taking accountability as well. When you said that story around you want to blame your team, then you have to look back within yourself.
Yeah.
But the analogy I like to use is like the reaction versus responsive. The reaction is wanting to slam the door, but then putting your foot in between the door and where it closes just to stop it so it doesn't slam. And that's what you did, you know, like you went to have a go at your mate, then you said, no, let's have a meeting, and you stepped back.
Yeah.
Like, how did you develop, I guess, being more responsive than reactive, just to give a bit more insight here?
Observing my own life and like obviously getting kicked up the arse. Like I used to be a really, I'll say reactive, but I'd also say aggressive person. When people would call me out on things, or if I didn't understand things, but you know, wanted to be part of something, it would be in an aggressive way. And that never worked well in my life. And then obviously I watch people on social media and I learn from people as you do, and anyone who's watching this, I'm sure they do. And I've watched people who do insane endurance challenges and I've been like, oh, I love what they do, but I don't like certain elements. And for example, when I was watching like Ned Brockman do it, and the way he let his emotions, you know, wore his heart on his sleeve, which was awesome. But for me, I didn't want to be swearing at my mum, or mum wasn't there, but like in doing that, because I've done that before when I was younger. And I think I'd come through having done so many stupid things. I'd been able to have an opportunity to reflect on that and learn from that and choose how I wanted to respond if I was in a similar situation. And the benefit of having done or choosing to do hard things, and hard doesn't need to be physically, it could be having tough conversations, it could be, you know, getting yourself out of financial debt, it doesn't matter. Whatever is the hard thing is like you are faced with what your real character is. And if you don't like where you're at, it's perfect because you can choose to change that. So the benefit of like fitness, for example, is I can stop if I want to. Like if it gets too much, I can stop.
The choice, yeah.
But life eventually is going to come around and it's going to put me in a hard position where I can't stop. Yeah. And if I hadn't been preparing for it, if I hadn't been developing emotional regulation or having an understanding or an idea of how I wanted to show up when adversity is there, I'm just going to go to default patterns, which is what I'd always done.
Yeah.
And so once again, having done certain things over the years, and not just hard things, going into the dancing rooms and doing all that sort of stuff, it's like, okay, I want to choose how I want to respond, and how I want to respond is how I want to be leaving an impact, which is how I want to be remembered. Yeah. And so for me to snap at my mates just because it's cold out and it's, you know, I forgot my water bottle, that's not what the man that I want to be would do. So don't fucking do it.
Yeah. That shows like how important it is to actually reflect on life. You know, one thing I did or started to do years ago was like a fortnightly audit of my life, and just like actually intentionally sit down and review like the last 2 weeks, and do that every 2 weeks. And it serves so much, because one thing I found was that, you know, pain plus reflection equals progress. The more I reflected on the pain, the more progress that I had, and I just kept like stacking and getting better, which was a good thing, because I learned so much like on how I can make my own experience in life the best it can be, just from an emotional standpoint.
When you refer to pain, do you just mean physical, or do you like, what were some of the painful experiences you were experiencing? Physical,
emotional.
I was like experiencing, sorry. Yeah.
But like overcoming drug addiction, you know, like coming clean on drugs. Because for a bit more context, people listening, I was addicted to drugs from 11, got clean at 18. Then from 18 to 20, I had a lot of pain with suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety. And then through that, became severely overweight. And I had physical pain. And then there was a juggle of the both, you know, the physical and the mental. And then I had to audit that and reflect on it to see what patterns I can implement to improve it. So things like going to the gym for the physical, then also realized going to the gym doing physical stuff was a domino effect into the mental stuff.
Yeah.
And that began like making me feel more confident and less anxious in spaces, which then motivated me to go to TAFE and learn more about psychology, which then ripple affected me into starting Instagram and posting online, which then ripple affected me here to do this podcast with you today. And it all started just from, you know, having pain and reflecting on it, and then just building on that over time.
That's epic. What was was there a light bulb moment for you when you started implementing that process that you can still remember, like vividly, that jumped out at you?
The biggest one was, to be honest, it was probably close to the start, because I got expelled from school. And then when I was like 19, 20, I had no job. I was on Centrelink, and I just thought of myself as the biggest failure. And like, I was stuck in the mindset of like, what's even the point of trying? Like, life's against me. And I felt like a complete failure, because, you know, at 19, you should have your life sorted out. That's what I thought. You know, I should have a house, should have a wife, should have kids. But then I was like, all right, what's one thing I can do that can give me a sense of fulfillment and achievement? I was like, well, I'll never complete year 12. Let's go and do that. So I went to TAFE, did year 12. Then within TAFE, I chose psychology as one of my classes. And when I did psychology, I just became obsessed with the mind. And then from that moment on, that's when it all triggered for me.
Crazy that one thing for you just prompted a full 180 in who you became.
Yeah, like just that one moment, just choosing psychology, because the reason I wanted to do it, because I was like, well, I feel down and out and anxious, and I don't know why, so I might as well, learn this subject to see if I can learn anything about myself. And then I remember going into the first class and just learning about how the brain reacts to like how we implement different patterns and what's the ripple effect on those down the road. I was like, well, maybe if I start doing different actions, maybe I can start getting different outcomes, because if I keep doing the same actions, I'm going to get the same outcomes over and over again. And then, that's when I just started to find different ways to implement different things. And as with probably you as well, I did a lot of things that didn't help. But I feel like you have to trial and error so many things to find what actually works for you.
I agree. Yeah, you have to. I said this to a friend the other day because they were talking about wanting to do this, their own sort of fitness challenge. I was like, just fucking do it. Like, because if you don't, like the fear and anxiety, whatever's holding you back from doing it is just going to continually ruminate in your mind. Yeah. The moment that you do it, you may not like it, and the anxiety and the fear may be correct. But now you know, like there's evidence. Until that point, you don't know, and it could be something that you genuinely enjoy, and it could change the trajectory of your life, because everyone's one decision away from changing their life in some way, positive or negative. And so, to your point, it's just like the things that we can do to become a better person, or identify the problems that we have and just go, oh, if this could teach me something because my head's not right, awesome. Or if this could teach me something because my body's not right, give it a crack. Like just have a go, because all the evidence that you get, or all the feedback, is evidence to tell you what you don't want to do more of and what you do want to do more of. Yeah. The people who do a lot of things know more about themselves than those who don't.
Yeah, definitely.
So do more stuff.
And also like test your belief system as well, because before I ever did breath work, I had a conception around breath work that's for hippies and
I'm with you, man. We must have been the same upbringing.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not a hippie, like that's not for me. And then I went to an event called To Be Conscious years ago, and I did breath work then, and I remember doing that the first time. I'm like, wait, there's actually something to this. And then that, even to this day, like I'm advising people to do breath work. But if I never challenge my belief system to go and do it, I probably would still be stuck with like intrusive thoughts or dealing with anxiety or not knowing how to regulate my nervous system. So many things, just because I held myself back because of certain beliefs that I had. So, have you ever had a point in your life where you had to challenge a belief system and it turned out positive?
Oh, dude, list as long as my arm, I reckon. I think to your point, when you were saying you didn't feel worthy and you felt like a bit of a piece of shit, I felt the same. It was like 2013, I'd moved back from France. I was playing rugby over there, and when I moved back, I was, all I thought I ever was going to be good at was sport. So I didn't really put much time or energy into academics, and my dad was a builder, and everyone's like, maybe do a trade, like get something to fall back on, have your plan B. And I was like, no. And so when the plan A didn't work out, I come back to Australia and I had nothing. I found purpose in being the wild party guy, which I didn't like, but I liked the validation of being the guy. But and when I'm doing it, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I want to be an athlete. And I found myself in a position where I'd made a few bad decisions, and I'm sitting at the bottom of the stairs at this club, just got arrested for being an idiot. And I'm like, I'm disgusting. Like, I'm actually disgusted. I went to a great school. I've had great opportunities. I've got great people, great family, and this is how I'm choosing to live. And I started to genuinely believe that, like, to that point, I'd believe that this is all I'm ever going to be. Like, you're only the party guy. You're a piece of shit. You treat people this way. That's it. Yeah. And so when that moment happened and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, this is how I am, I challenged the fuck out of myself in that moment when I was drunk. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my situation. I'm going to move here. I'm going to stop drinking. And I didn't really have any other plans aside from that, but that then started challenging my belief. And I started going to events like what we spoke about, where people were dancing and stuff. And I was watching people share their transformation stories and hearing what they did challenge me, because I'm like, if they can, so can I. Yeah. Or as I started working with coaches, they would call out parts on like how you treat people is not good. And I'm like, I have to admit that I'm an asshole. I have to admit that I'm a manipulator. I have to admit that I'm a cheater. Like that's hard to do.
The whole thing to face.
Because then I'm like, the whole world's going to, not the whole world, but like people are going to know.
Yeah.
They're going to judge me. But once I did that, it's like, yeah, now people know those things about me, but I've improved. I still remember a lady commented on a Facebook post, maybe 2015 or 16, is like, you're a fraud. Like you did this. You're full of shit. And I was just like, well, how is anyone ever going to be allowed to grow and change if people always hold them to the version of themselves that they met them in?
Yeah, 100%. You got to allow people to grow and evolve.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the hardest things I see for why people aren't changing themselves. Is it's not that they don't want to, it's not that they don't believe they can, it's the world around them is holding them back. The internal representation of the friends and family is like, you aren't that person, stop being that person.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's who I want to be, and that's maybe who I always have been, but I've wanted to fit in. And deep down we all want to feel loved, valued and seen, and sometimes we sacrifice who we are in order to do that and become someone we don't even recognize anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a confusing time, it's a sad time, but the only way you can get to where you want to get to is challenging your beliefs.
Yeah. And I find too, like if you personally don't allow other people to grow and evolve and learn from their mistakes, like how can you expect yourself to do that?
Yeah.
Like so you gotta have the belief system around, allow other people to grow. Then also you can, adopt that for yourself as well. Because the person that I was and the person that you was 10 years ago is completely different. But we never allowed ourselves the opportunity to grow and learn and become the men that we are becoming and still striving to become. Like then we'll still be stuck in those old patterns, doing the same things, living the same lifestyle. And who knows where we will be.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how you feel about it, but there's so many things that I wish I didn't do, but I don't regret them happening because of those, I now have the lessons, and it was probably slowly nudging me towards wanting to change or having the burning desire to change. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm the same. Like I reflect back and I did a lot of stupid stuff, especially like when I was on the drugs, but I don't regret any of it because it developed the man I am, developed the person I am because I learned from it all, like maybe if I didn't learn from it and I'm still doing the same stuff, then I would regret a lot of the stuff that I did, but because I feel like it all served the purpose. Like I never did any serious harm to anyone. So a lot of the things that I did do was more self-inflicted.
Yeah.
So like when I do reflect back, I'm like, no, I don't regret any of it because I wouldn't have the experience I have today. I wouldn't have developed myself to the person I am today if I didn't have those certain experiences in my past.
And do you feel it's more important for you to forgive yourself or to get the forgiveness of others from the past?
Probably forgiveness for others, because for myself, I don't think I've like ever consciously had to forgive myself because I've never, what's the word I'm looking for to describe this? Like I've never looked at myself in a way where guilt and shame attached to certain things. I never felt like I had to forgive myself. But maybe definitely, hopefully other people forgive me for some of the certain things that I did. Like, back in those days, just doing stupid stuff, doing drugs, selling drugs, some of the things you do to get drugs and sell drugs as well. Like pretty bonkers, like, I think that's where a lot of my determination and willpower comes from, like if it's 3 a.m, you can't get on, like you find a way.
You'll find,
And it's like the same today, like if I want something, like I find a way to make it happen. I think that's because of, what I used to do and what lengths I used to go to be able to get on and do all that stuff. Like I've transferred those certain skills to me now. I feel like that's what really helps me today.
Yeah, that's powerful. I was very interested to hear that as we were talking. I'm like, thinking about like people in my life and like, have I forgiven myself, and do I still want the forgiveness of the other people, or do I hope that who I am now is maybe doing enough good in the world to get to that point? Because I'm sure maybe people listening who have done things that they aren't proud of or made mistakes in their life are probably thinking about that same thing. So it's good to hear what you thought about that.
Yeah, and I think my perception on like not like consciously forgiving myself comes down to because I've accepted the fact that everything that I've done was for a reason, whether good or bad. So it's probably more so getting rid of the guilt and shame rather than looking for forgiveness. And for me to get comfortable with the guilt and shame with some of the things that I did was literally just reflection, but then also give myself new evidence today that I'm not that person anymore, and like detaching from that person and just being the man I am today. So just constantly show up and give myself evidence to prove to me like who I actually am or who I believe to be, you know?
Yeah.
Are you the same? Like, do you find you attempt to give yourself evidence to reaffirm the person you're striving to be?
100%. You got to walk your talk. When you have an idea, it's that whole ripple effect, right? Like if I would drop a coin and that coin is my vision, right? Dropping in, there's got to be a ripple effect. That within the ripple, there's like your habits, there's your beliefs, there's your standards, boundaries, you know, whatever the ripples that shape that vision and bring that vision to life are. And for me to stand here and preach to people that you are capable of so much more than you want, than you believe, it's like to live a great life, I have to be living my best version of my life, right? And so in order to do that, it's the fact that I could take 2 months out of my life to do the run and still have a business that's running and have a wife that supports me to do that and have great people involved in that is me showing people, hey, this, what I talk about and what I believe, it's not easy to do, and it's taken me a decade plus to get to that point. Yeah. But if you start with your vision for your life and you start becoming the man that you want to become or the woman that you want to become and need to become, then these things are possible for you. You don't, there's this expectation, especially for men in the workforce and people in the workforce, that like burnout's expected, like you have to hustle to achieve success. That's what we all think. Yeah. I thought it for ages. And literally for the last 6 years, like I work a lot, but I also got a lot of flexibility and freedom to do the things that I want to do. Like I prioritize exercising every day whenever I choose. Like if I want to run at 11, I'm running at 11. If I want to go on a holiday, like I'm doing the things, because time is going so fast. You can always make more money. Yeah. And I put myself in a position where I work for myself. Once again, not the easiest thing to do, but that's what I decided I needed to do to allow me to have those things. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I've put myself in that position, I'm not just going to wait for a time for it to be perfect for me to do that. I'm going to start doing that now. Yeah. Because that is what I preach. That's what I want to do. Like I want to have a life full of incredible adventures, incredible stories, but I also know that I need purpose. I need finances. I need, good people in my life. I need a bit of stability as well, but I'm just constantly sort of evolving with that, but making sure that I'm not allowing any excuse to stop me doing those things.
And also you want the longevity of the good times in life, like avoiding things like burnout. And to be able to get the longevity of the good times in life is implementing the things that will steer away the burnout and making sure that you're staying on top of the things that will keep that longevity going. Because when I started working in like mental health, I had one person say to me, the career expectancy of someone is 2 to 4 years due to burnout, because you're dealing with people's like challenges and the struggles they're going through. And I did believe that to begin with, like, oh, maybe I've got to be really cautious, like maybe a year 4 I'm going to have a meltdown or something. But like now I'm 7 years in, I haven't had like an actual burnout per se, like quote unquote. Yeah. I think that is because like I show up and do the things that I want to do, and every day is not perfect, and some days I don't, but I just make sure like over a long time period, like the trajectory is going up. Yeah. And one thing that I learned was the best thing for me, and I'm not sure if you try this or it relates to you, the best thing that I did was utilize the moments in between, because I used to think looking after your mental health was like, had to be like a 1 hour morning routine, like dipping your face in the water and rubbing banana peel on your face. And
Wait, you don't do that?
No, I just use apples.
Yeah. As long as you don't go to the orange peels, that'll hurt.
Yeah. But like, I used to think it had to be this big rigid project every single day. And it can be for certain people, depending on what works for you. But one thing that worked for me was utilizing the moments in between. So I was like, there's probably at least 4 different pockets of 10-minute spaces each day that I have. Like, what am I doing in those 10-minute pockets? Am I getting on my phone and scrolling, or am I putting my phone down and, rather doing like conscious breathing, or am I doing like a meditation, or am I going for a walk? Like, how am I using those moments in between? And to be honest, I think that's one of the things that's really helped me have longevity, is because I'm not just trying to jam pack it all into one moment. Instead, I'm utilizing all those other moments.
I think it's like ultimately getting structure, but with the structure, you're getting intent, because that then gives you direction, and which leads to like clarity and calmness, and a calm mind is like a strong mind, right? Yeah. And when you start taking the pressure off yourself to go, I need an hour or 90 minutes. Because I used to do fucking 90 minutes, man. I'm like, wow, where did that go? Like, I would never do that now. And so it's then going, okay, well, I do have these pockets of time where I notice I'm scrolling on the phone. So what's something that 3 to 5 minutes that's going to benefit me? Because once again, you're like changing your state, or you're getting a new idea from reading a book, or just even going for a walk outside, like you're calming your mind. You're doing all these things that are going to make you better for the things that are important. That's where it's like, okay, that 10 minutes is worthwhile me doing that instead of scrolling, because scrolling is going to make me anxious, make me feel like I'm not doing enough, or I'm going to have to respond to some messages, whatever it is. It just adds more to your plate majority of the time, when most of us, we just need to do less. Like, we need to remove things from our life. And I know we could easily say like breathwork's doing more, but it's like, it's centering yourself. Let's be honest. It's not fucking adding more to the plate. It's deloading.
Yeah, 100%. Because you don't want to add like 30 things to your morning routine. It's literally finding the couple of things that work for you during the day and just implementing that. It could even just be one. Yeah, you just got to find what works for you, you know?
Yeah. Man, when I was running, like, I write every morning. Like, I feel like that's the most beneficial thing for me. But even when I was running, it's like the most important thing was recovery. So I didn't have any morning routine. I literally would get up, have a bit to eat, have procrastination hour where I'd fuck around, and then run. It's like there was no stressing about not doing my cold plunges or having my saunas or writing or doing all that. It's just like, I've got one job. The only thing that's going to allow me to do the job is running. So start running.
Yeah.
And no, you go.
No, you go. I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I feel like it's very easy to feel like we have to do all these things. And obviously you've alluded that we don't, to be successful, when in reality, the only thing that's going to allow you to be successful are the things that move the needle on what your definition of success is. And if you don't know what that looks like, then that's probably where you need to start. The thing you need to do is probably create an outcome that you're looking for, and then break it down and just do that. Like, yeah, there's going to be things that clear your mind. There's going to be things that make you feel more energized, like breathing or gym routine, but that should be a part of being the person you can be, not just doing the things to do it. Because I was thinking about this during the week, actually. Like, people talk about being versus doing, and like embodiment versus whatever. And for me, it's like a lot of the things I do when people ask, you know, how do you, even this morning, go running in the rain? It's like, I just train regardless of what the weather's doing or what's going on. It's like, that's just me being me, because I enjoy it and I feel good for it. You know, the benefit is X, Y, and Z. A to-do, like doing things is like my to-do list. And so like being is your identity. So in order to achieve a long-term success that we've set, or that we've both mentioned, like if you want to have great health in the future, if you want to have great finances and an incredible marriage and an incredible lifestyle of adventure, who do you need to be? To the point of, if people ask you how you've created it, you're like, let me think about that for a second, because I'm just being me. As opposed to the person who's like, this is my to-do list of how I get all my shit done. And you're like, well, that's crazy. Like, you haven't embodied that, and they're there for maybe a short period in your life. And once again, I can't speak to that too much more, because I've just been thinking about that a lot this week, and like, how can I segment that and understand that more? And that's where I'm at.
I think you just explained me.
Yeah.
Not even kidding, because like my wife and people around me say like I should document more of my life because it may inspire people, like the things that I do.
Yep.
And I'm like, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything special because I'm just being me.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like I should even do that because like, why am I boasting? Like, I'm just me. Like, but I think, yeah, you literally just explain me.
Yeah. Well, that's that. I'm glad it worked. We're making progress on that. Yes. But I think it's so important though. The benefit of being able to find people in your life who have the results that you want and find a way to spend more time around them is so valuable, because not only are they you're going to see the things that they do, but you're going to see who they actually are. Yeah. So if, for example, if someone were to hang around me, for example, and they're coming because they want to learn X, Y, and Z, but then they see like the choices that I make between meetings around, whether it's food or whether I text my wife or calling a friend on the road. It's like they pick up all these small things and they go, wow, you have time to do that in the hustle time. Or, when you're training for 58 marathons, you still eat Domino's pizza, or like it becomes human and it becomes a lot more real for people, and they can then start bridging the gap to go, actually, if that's how he does and he achieves this, and I'm just using me as an example, but everyone's got these points. Everyone's got these zones of geniuses that allow them to do, whether it's an incredible parent, it doesn't matter. You get to pick up on those small things that actually matter, because it is the small things that matter.
Yeah.
The small things stack up and deliver great outcomes, where it's like the big things that you see on social media are just like the trendy things, and people, they're not sustainable for a lot of people. They're adding to your plate rather than clearing your plate, and we've got to come back to like what's actually attainable and who do you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. And like something you said before as well, I usually ask this at the end of the episode. I'm going to ask it now because it kind of just fits in what we're talking about. But like, how do you define success?
Great question. For me, success is waking up every day knowing the things that are coming towards me are exactly what I want to do. So obviously through the seasons of life, that's going to change, and I'm completely comfortable with change. At the moment, my main priority in life and my wife's priority is starting a family. So we're obviously, I was saying to you before, we're deciding where we're going to live. So we've been based in Nashville for 18 months and all of our stuff's in storage there. We've also got a lot of stuff in storage here. So we're deciding this is our main focus. Success to us is like financially we're in a good position to be able to make decisions like that. Family is something that's important to both of us. We want to have a family and do that next chapter. We also still want to have our careers. My wife's very successful in her own right. I am successful in my right, and we're both very adventurous in the things that we want to do. So we want to be able to continue doing those. So in order to do that, it's like there's a money figure that we are aware of in order to allow us to do those things. So if we have a child, we can have support, we can pay for support and do those sorts of things. But for me, it's like every quarter, I want to be doing my adventures. I want to continue impacting people in the way that I want to impact through my workshops, through speaking. I want to continue to travel abroad. Like that's just so adventure rich for us. And I want to be fit and healthy. So I have a set of standards, which I'm actually fallen behind for the first time in my life. And I blame it on the run, of like how much I want to be able to lift, how fast I want to be able to run a 5K. Just because for me, it's like, if I don't have something to train for, I know that if I maintain those standards, if someone says, hey, come do this or do you want to do that, it's like I feel like I'm going to be in pretty good nick to do those things. So simple answer is like wake up knowing that whatever's in front of me, I've chosen to do. And let's be honest, 75% is what I've chosen to do. There's 20, there's a few things I don't, and I'm moving towards something that's important to me in that season.
In terms of making the impact, why is making an impact so important to you?
It gives me, it's my purpose. Like I truly believe, from my experience of life, what I lacked as a young boy was good role models, strong role models that I could relate to and gave me the time. So I was lost and confused for a very long time. There are a lot of lost and confused people out there, especially a lot of lost and confused men. Those men have a lot of potential that's been left on the table. Yeah. I believe I've got myself into a position where I can give, and I love to do that because I love seeing the change, right? And it also helps remind me of what's important in my life. When I'm seeing people who are dealing with challenges and I'm, talking to them or hearing their stories, I'm like, I've been there, or that's potentially coming. Yeah. And because of that, that allows me to, I guess, be intentional with what I'm doing. The other point is just like, in order to be able to inspire, from my point of view, it's like I feel like I have this gift of suffering where I can suffer and do these challenges and inspire people and hoping to inspire the people who are suffering in silence, because I lost my first friend to suicide when he was 13 or just nearly 14 and I was 15. And I'm like, you shouldn't be thinking about that.
So young. Bro.
Yeah, that's just terrible, and people aren't talking about these things. And I as I spoke about maybe 20 minutes ago, like if you can get comfortable with suffering and decide who you want to be in those moments, then your whole life's going to change, because that's chosen adversity. There's going to be adversity coming your way for all of us, myself included, that you're not prepared for. And if you aren't doing reps, like it's going to potentially fucking wreak havoc.
Yeah, you got to condition yourself for it.
You got to. That's the word I was looking for. I was rambling. So for me, it's just like, if I can inspire, and once again, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I don't hope to be or plan to be. But if there's people out there who resonate with I guess even my story and how I do things and what I think is important, then awesome. There's also going to be people who don't, which is awesome. Go find your people.
Yeah. Talking about story and then also facing up and coming challenges, like doing the 58 marathons back to back, like what was the story you had to tell yourself to continue the challenge?
I found myself so day five was the worst day by a long shot. Both ankles were truly fucked. And I got out of our motorhome and I'm walking over to the showers and it's -12, very cold, and the pain is just shooting up my legs. My shins are red. Like, I don't know if you've seen like people with poor circulation where it's just like red. That's what my legs look like. And I'm like, how much hot water do I need to put on these to get them to like loosen up and be able to run with a little bit less pain? Turns out nothing worked. Got back in the van, and Nevada, where we were in West Wendover, is a very mountainous place. There was a baseball pitch about 400 meters up the road, and I'm like, okay, that's where we're going. And I'm hopefully going to try and run. And Liam's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to run, not possible. So I'm walking. And as I started walking, I looked down at my watch and it says like 14 minutes per kilometer. So the quick bro math is like, that's going to be like 10 hours walking around this 250 meter pitch. That's a long time in the cold, like really long time. And once you work out the time, then I started kicking my own ass mentally. I just went to town. It's like, it's your fault for this. Your ego got in the way. You didn't prepare. Maybe you're not as good as you think you are. You're a fraud. How are you going to tell the sponsors that you failed? How are you going to tell the internet that you failed? Like, you told everyone you're going to raise over $100,000 for mental health. You've told everyone you're going to do this world first. You've told everyone you're going to be the first person in history to do the 50 States Marathon Challenge in winter. I put a lot out there. And now you're on day 5. You've got 53 days left potentially, and you're cooked. And I kept walking. That would have been like a couple of hours. And I had this wave come over me at one point where it was just like a kick up my own ass. Because on these runs, you do get quite spiritual because you have a lot of time to think. And I'm just like, I chose to do this, but I'm lucky I get to do this. Like, I'm in the middle of America in a place that most people probably never visit, doing something that I love with people that I love. Yes, I'm hurting, but like, this is such a rare opportunity and experience. Just enjoy it, because there's people who can't even fucking walk.
Yeah, definitely.
And so to do what you're doing at this pace, they would do anything to do.
Dream of. Yeah.
And I inspired myself in that moment. Like, all right, I'm running, let's go. And I got a trot and hurt, so I had to go back to walking. But that shifted my whole mindset, because what I realized was I had 2 hard decisions and 2 decisions that sucked. Yeah. That's all that was on the table. One is you quit, and in the immediate future, it removes all the pain. Like, it sounds pretty tempting. But then you have to live with the long-term effect of you failed to do something that you had sponsors on board. It was a big thing to tell people you're going to do. Like, you've damaged your reputation, and maybe you're not as good as you think you are. So I have to recover from that. So short-term, good. Long-term, not so good. The other hard decision, which absolutely sucked as well, was you continue to get out every day. It's freezing cold. You're in extreme amounts of pain. You don't know whether you've got shin splints, because I didn't have health insurance over there. You don't know whether you've got compartment syndrome. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And you're running in snow and in ice. Like, you don't know, and it sucks. But you have to run. No one else can run for you. Short term, that sucks. Long term, it's like you raise over $100,000. We raised $167,000 for mental health. You become the first person in history to run 58 marathons, 58 days, 58 states, and the first person to do the 50 States Marathon Challenge in winter. And you change the trajectory of your life because you've done something that's so fucking significant. You learn all these lessons, and then you can continue in my journey, which was to use this story to continue my speaking and inspire people. So short term, sucked, quit. Short term easy was to quit. Long term, that would just ruin everything. And then go through the pain of today was like short term hard, but long term better. And when my physio from Brisbane called me, he's like, are you going to quit? And I'd been telling myself all day I'm going to quit. As soon as you get asked by someone else, you're like, fuck, am I really going to quit? I'm like, thought about those 2 things I just mentioned then. I'm like, nah, not quitting. He's like, awesome. It's going to change how we're going to treat you. This is our plan. He gave me a plan. The moment that I had a belief from a health professional and I had the plan from a health professional that wasn't guaranteed, it just gave me the belief to just go, okay, all I have to do I'm going to battle this. It didn't, both the beating myself up and the wanting to quit didn't disappear at all. Every day was there. But then there was like 5K where you felt awesome, 5K where you hated your life. But I knew that if I just kept showing up, I'm going to chip away and I'm going to get to where I want to get to. But I'm also going to find out who I really am in the process. Because when I first started, I wanted to find my breaking point. Yeah. People talk about finding their breaking points all the time. What's your breaking point? I'd hit my fucking breaking point. I didn't even realize it. I was just already thinking about quitting in the worst possible case scenarios rather than going, hold up. Yeah. When you're in the adversity, how do you really want to be? And I'm just lucky that I had enough time thinking that I could see what was actually happening in real time to go, okay, this is what I'm choosing to do. And every day, no matter what I think or the pain that I'm in, it's like, this is what I've chosen. So all other decisions are off the table. Just do the one thing.
That's it. It's like not who we are at the best version of ourselves. It's like who we are at those deep, dark, raw version of ourselves. Because I feel like that's where we truly shine the light on who we truly are. And with yourself, like all that self-talk, that voice in the back of your head, you know, trying to maybe implement a bit of doubt, maybe trying to find ways to get out of it, probably looking for comfort and security.
Yeah.
Over 58 days, how do you think your relationship developed with that version of yourself?
Every marathon I finished, there was like this huge sense of pride because every day is you wake up, you know it's cold outside, you know it's snowing, and you know you got to do 42 kilometers, right? And that's going to take 4+ hours. That's not a very fun way to spend your day.
Yeah.
When you overcome small milestones, and I would break the marathon down, it's like once I got 5K in, I knew I'm not, renegotiating the start time. It's on. Yeah. Then I'd get to 21K, then I go to 24K, then I had all these milestones which were wins for me. And so every time I got to that win, I'm like, all right, now we're restarting. We've got 3K to the next one or 7K to the next one. And it would just begin. So you're just like one foot in front of the other, whatever that looked like on the day. Didn't matter the weather. Like it was freezing, snowing. I was saturated. That didn't determine how I needed to go from point A to point B. I still had to run. Yeah. And then when I finished, it's like, holy crap.
I did that.
I just did that, man. And like, we got a documentary coming out, but like, there's one thing that people will never really get to understand is just how fucking cold it was.
Yeah.
Like, it is hard. Like, the team didn't leave the van. They had the heater on the whole time because it was so freaking cold. Like I got frost nip on my finger, and frost nip's like the stage before frostbite. So I was soaking my hand in warm water in the morning, warm water in the night to try and get the tingling to disappear. Wow. And that was for like 7 days for my stupid mistake of running off without gloves. But so the cold was just like, wow. But so you'd have, when you finish, I had until I went to bed. So let's say between 4 and 6 hours where I was just like on top of the world. I'm like, no issues at all. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I'm just like, wow, what a time. Let's get Maccas. Let's just be happy.
Let's enjoy the moment.
And then you go to bed and you know it's about to start again. But I knew that it became a cycle. It became a habit where it's like, I knew that the suffering was going to suck, but I knew what would come after it would be great. And so I just knew that like if I could minimize the time between waking up and getting started, I could get to that great moment sooner. Yeah. And it wasn't guaranteed what the weather was going to be like. It was, none of that was guaranteed. It's just like, get going, one foot in front of the other, and get to feel proud about yourself because of whatever adversity you overcame for that day, or the fact that you just did another consecutive marathon. That's pretty awesome in and of itself. And then when you put your head on the pillow, it's like, you can go, you gave everything you had today. Like this is stuff you've never done before. Yeah. And it changed my whole outlook on, like I've come back to Australia so hungry to do better. Yeah. Not just running, or it's just like just better in general, because I realize how much I leave on the table and how much I've just been coasting because I've had my business, for example, for 7 years, and I've been scared of failing. Like I haven't been taking risks in business. I haven't been running certain workshops that I want to run or doing certain things because I'm like, I've got a good thing, but what if I ruin it? Yeah. And now I'm just like, fuck it. Like you want to impact people's lives. You want to also live a great life yourself, something that you enjoy. Do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. long-winded answer. I feel
No,
like I've been
that's
just
good.
sorry.
But I'm realizing I'm getting closer to 10:30, so I want to
Oh, wow.
transition towards the end of some of my questions I want to ask around the end of the challenge as well, because the one thing, well, before I get into that, just give people a visual of what you just talked about. Like, I remember seeing videos of you going into, you staying at some apartment complex, there was a swimming pool. I think it was like thick ice at the top, and you had to like try and get in, and just give people a visual, like it was freezing. When you were.
Yeah, there was literally like 2 inches of ice on top of the pool.
Yeah.
So things are cold. Like, things are cold. And one of the challenges, okay, so I wasn't aware of this until it started happening, but you have your running outfit, right? You're like, it's cold, so wear warm gear. But what happens when you're running in the snow is you start sweating.
Yeah.
And if you're sweating in sub-zero temperatures, that starts freezing. So you've got an issue where you get hypothermic. Then the flip side is like, well, okay, well, how do I manage my clothing so that I'm not sweating and getting hypothermic, but I'm also just not freezing my ass off?
Yeah.
And that obviously changes depending on the pace that you're running, the wind conditions. So every day, you know, I'm adding and removing layers like face masks, like all kinds of stuff, just trying not to freeze.
So many elements.
So many elements. Like, it was the easiest part was the running. It's just like the logistics of it all was just madness.
And another logistic would have been when you flew to Australia. Like, what was that like going from, because I'm assuming you're running from state to state and then in and out the bus, but then going from like, I don't know, like a 15-hour flight, however long it was, and then to come and land and then go for a run on minimal sleep after a long flight of sitting down in the compact space where you're not moving as much. What was that first run in Australia like?
Oh, amazing. No, that was hell week. So we'd done 4 marathons in 48 hours. But after overcoming everything I'd overcome, I was like, initially that was the most fearful moment, was what you just mentioned, that transition. But after overcoming everything, I was like, I've run a marathon off 2.5 hours sleep back to back. Like, I've done the travel, I've done all of that. So when I landed in Sydney, what was it? It was 12 or 14 hours after my last marathon, which was in Hawaii. Jumped off, we got down to the harbour, and there was like 30 people there, and I was like, this is awesome. So like the energy from them got me going, and it felt good to be back in Australia. Like, it felt like at that point, I'm like, if I can overcome all the stuff that I've overcome, the logistics, 50 marathons in place, knowing I didn't have health insurance, which I was worried about, to then get back to Australia where I'm very comfortable, safety-wise, like in the cities, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I wasn't worried about any of the things that I was worried about in the US. So for me, it felt like a lap of like a celebration. Yeah. It was just like awesome. Like, I was in good spirits the whole time. You know, I knew where to get good food, like all of that sort of stuff. So it was just like a homecoming.
Oh, awesome. And that last 5Ks in Brisbane, talk to me about that, the last 5Ks and crossing the finish line. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, the last 5K, I, asked everyone if I could just run by myself, just so I could think about it and really like take it in. And it was cool to reminisce on the journey, that, and also quite sad that it was done. But I was also like, I wonder how many people are going to be at the end there. And I was expecting mum, dad, and maybe a couple of friends. But as I got onto the river walk there, heading back into the city in Brisbane, there's just like all the way out to the first bend, like hundreds of people. And it was just like this huge wave of emotion, because when you're going through something, you don't think other people are watching necessarily. Like, obviously on social media you can see some stuff, but the fact that nearly 1,000 people took time out of their Thursday to come watch me finish when they could have been doing anything else. Yeah. For me, it was like, hopefully I've done something right to inspire people to do something better in their life. And it was just like, okay, well, let's run it in and just enjoy this moment, because this is not going to happen again. And I stayed around for hours after talking to people and thanking people for coming down, and getting to reminisce on what it was. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. Yeah, it was awesome.
What was it like? Because crossing the finish line, who was the first person you hugged?
The wife. It was good because I hadn't seen my wife. I saw her once in the 58 days. So obviously we were doing IVF, and it worked out. We were going through. I can't remember the town now. Some city in America, and we crossed paths. So we decided to like detour a little bit so we could see each other for the night, which was awesome. So I hadn't seen her for since Mexico, which was in New Year's Day. So it was great to see each other, and then obviously have her at the finish line. Yeah, was super cool. Having her support, and obviously I would have loved her to come on the run, but yeah, that was a cool experience.
Awesome. Lachlan, just want to say thanks for coming on the podcast. Also, thanks for, shut up for yourself and also inspiring the world, man. Inspirational.
Thanks so much for having me on, and right back at you. All the work you do and the growth that you've had and you keep showing up is freaking awesome, mate. You're doing great things, and I look forward to hopefully catching up in 2 years' time, or sooner than 2 years' time, and see the work. But what's most impressive as well is like the stuff you're doing with the young men. It's so necessary and so needed. So, got a lot of respect for you for doing that.
Likewise, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.